Hey everyone, Frater Ashen out here, and today we got a really cool book on the book review, Gateways Through Light and Shadow by Frater Ashen. And I really hope you guys like it. This has become quickly my favorite book, and I hope you enjoy the things I have to say about it, and I hope you have the copy. If you do have the copy, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'd like to talk to you about it. But also, make sure you subscribe to this channel because we got some cool things coming up, as you'll hear at the end of this. I talk a little bit about it, so let's get into it. And today I want to discuss a book review. I love book reviews, so do you guys. Got a lot of good feedback on the last one, so I'm going to start doing more of them, like I planned on doing anyways. So, today we're going to talk about Gateways Through Light and Shadow. This book is an interesting one, and I do mean that in every sense of the word. So, kind of how I stumbled across Frater Ashen was I have been listening to Greg Kaminsky's Occult of Personality podcast for, years. I remember when it was just a small little website with a few followers, and I was one of the first ones. And so, Greg has upgraded, and he's really done a great job, and he's been on some of the YouTube channels, and he's pushed his name out there. So it was natural when I was listening to him through YouTube that YouTube would have recommendations. And I got into Occulture Podcast, not the Ultraculture Podcast with Jason Laveau, the Occulture Podcast, which I have linked into the website, and I'll try to link it into the video description down below. Okay, so from the Occulture Podcast, I have stumbled across the Glitch Bottle, which is a really high, I can't speak highly enough of it. I think he does a great job putting together the interviews and the presentations. So check out the Glitch Bottle. I'll link that down below as well. But there was an interview with Frater Ashen and how he worked with his Skyrer and how they went through all these different evocations with the angelic entities and some entities from the Goetia. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I listened to the whole podcast, and it was very entertaining and put it to the back of my mind like everything else goes. And I went on with my life. Now, a few weeks later, I was kind of browsing the webs, as I do, and I was on Facebook, and I saw Frater Ashen there, so I kind of liked his page and, did all that and kind of browsed through it and thought, hey, that's pretty cool. And he does a lot of interesting work, and he has a lot of good social presence on Facebook. Now, fast forward again another week or two, and I see where he posts that this book is still for sale, but it's a limited edition. And, I was like, oh, hey, that's cool. Limited editions, those would be nice to have. And moved on. And, finally, I ended up clicking on the link and going to the Miskatonic Books website, and I thought, I'm reading through it, I'm like, man, this is really cool. This is something that I kind of want to have, and I can't explain why. I mean, I don't whether he's promoting his book through magical purposes, which I don't blame him. I do things like that myself, but I just kind of got hooked on it, and I'm like, I need this book. Like, there was something in the back of my mind that says, this book is a key for something that you will need in the future. Get this book while you can. You need it. So I ended up ordering the book from Miskatonic Books, which I think is a phenomenal place. They have such a high-quality product and such a high-quality, service. Shipping took a little bit longer than I'd liked, but, that happens. That's okay. I just really wanted this book in. So I went ahead and I ordered the book, and I do not regret it. It's one of my books that I don't let anybody touch. Most of my books I'll share out, and you can see where the bindings broke down because of how many times they've been opened. And this one, it doesn't. It sits on the shelf until I'm ready to read it, and then it gets opened carefully, and I read it. Because It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. It's not a beginner's book, though. So that's one thing I want to make clear here, is that it's not a start with this, do this ritual, do this ritual, do this ritual. It's not that at all. What this book is his account with his scryer about what they have seen after performing the rituals. So they went through the steps, and they kind of show you how they prepare the ritual. They show you kind of how they did the ritual, and then they narrate the conversation with the angelic, or if you want to call them demonic entities of the Goetia. So they hit up with like Michael and Raphael, and then they also go into some others. And it was interesting because you see books that tell you how to do these things, but you never see books that show you results of these things. And that's what I've seen in this. And it opened up my mind, and the correspondences between what they relate and what they dictate in this book versus what personal truths I have came to and truths I have seen others claim. You see a trifecta of information starting to generate itself. So it is really cool. And you can read this book 100 times and you're going to get 100 different answers. You're going to get 100 different styles and thoughts and brain developments. There's a big picture here that is so far behind the veil from this book that you're not going to ever be dulled by it. And if you are, you're closed-minded and you're not seeing the true picture. So I really recommend this book highly. This is disclaimer, I'm not getting paid to say any of this stuff. I never get paid to do any type of these reviews. These are my honest reviews, and I start with books that I like the most to review, so I don't, just sound like a negative person, because I have a half dozen or more books on my bookshelf that I probably will tear apart one day. And I respect all authors, so I don't want to do that yet. But anyways, back to this. So, the encounters in this book are something that I would highly recommend and seeing. So, another thing I want to do here is I want to read a passage from the book a little bit. And I'm not going to do a lot because I don't think that's fair to really disturb the content of the book and display it without letting people buy it, but it's not fair to the author, it's not fair to the listener, it's bad practice. Anyways, so let's go ahead and pick a book. Pick a section. I got it here in front of me. Alright, so I'm going to randomly pick one when they're talking from Samael, and the question was from the scryer: Great Archangel Samael, fierceness of God, do you have any final words of advice, inspiration, or teachings before we conclude the ceremony? And then this is the response. When teaching the use of force, the student must understand the ultimate purpose and service of the skills they possess and the responsibility of wielding fire. The fierce love of God and for the scryer, burn away expectations, submit in faith wholly to the experience. Alright, so that's pretty interesting to think about, because the question was, do you have any final advice, inspiration, or teachings before we conclude the ceremony? And essentially what he's saying here is, you got to surrender yourself to the whole purpose, your ultimate will, your ultimate purpose of being in your skill set and in your responsibility. There is no gray area for you. And if you submit to this ultimate purpose that you have set forth, then you will continue forward. You'll be better off. So this book is packed full of words of wisdom like this. So even if you went through this and you were not into magic at all, you could learn stuff from this from a philosophical standpoint. So let's go and pick another one. I'm only going to do this a couple times. Let's see here. Where's my good friend Raphael? I love Raphael. He's one of my bros up in the angelic world. Him and Michael, they've always been there for me. All right. Let's see here. Alright, so they had a question for Raphael. What are your views on humanity? What are your roles in your interactions? And then the response was to touch. The response was to heal, to touch, and to teach others. All are children of God, a power they do not fully understand or comprehend. I teach through honesty, wisdom, compassion, and love. My purpose is to ease suffering, pain, and sadness, discomfort, and confusion. Humans, like all things, are the children of God whose power they cannot comprehend. I focus that power and move it. I teach them how to shape it, to sew, to carve, to build, so that they may carry out the plan of the Creator. I teach men to heal their bodies, their spirits, and their relationships with one another through action. Alright, so obviously, if you're in this world, if you're in this occult environment, especially dealing with the archangels and any type of Solomonic magic, you have a distinct connection with Christianity. You have that distinct connection. So you're going to have the relationship with the Jesus Christ, with God, as in the capital G, the divinity of Christians. I come up as a Christian, so this is me being a little opinionated here. I should probably be unbiased, but I come up as a Christian, but I kind of renounce that a little bit. I have a little bitter taste with Christianity for some reason, won't go into here, but I don't see this as being uniformed to just strictly Christianity, because they jump from God to Creator as a way to describing the big G. So you can see where it doesn't necessarily have to have the undertones of the Christianized version of it, but a lot of this, when you deal with the archangels and Solomonic magic, a lot of it is based with Judaism, Christianity. Just throwing that out there. But these examples are pristine, and I love them. And some of the items, I'm not going to go into them, you'll have to read the book, but some of the questions he asks are a little bit more of a localized question, basically like asking about weather and floods and personal questions from other people that he knows, and the reactions that they get from the angels are pretty interesting. Now, one thing I also want to discuss in here is that it's not just an account of his happenings. He gives you their sigils, he gives you the information about the spirit, and like I said earlier, he outlines kind of how he got them to evolve, and how he got, how he got them to evoke into presence through the sky. And it's really interesting because not only does he kind of hint at how you evoke these, how he did it, but some of the questions that are asked to the angelic entities and entities in general in the book build from other interactions. And you see where the answers are building as well. So it's not like the angelic entities are strictly independent with no knowledge or interaction of each other, which would be silly to really think that there would be, but there's always this undertone that angelic entities, or entities in general, don't necessarily react the same way as we do. But it gives you a better idea of how they have their limitations as an entity, and they can't really cross them, but they can build with more information based on a previous answer given by a different entity. You see that theme throughout the book as well, and then if an entity doesn't have the answer, you can see where they refer to discuss it with a previous entity or a new one. Just a little caveat there that I thought was pretty interesting, because some of the tools he develops through this book, he gets more information from the angelic entities on how to develop them and how to summon them better. I highly recommend the book, and I can't recommend it enough. And it's a book that will be in my bookshelf for a long time. But that is going to wrap it up for today's ones, because I really am passionate about this and I might have ranted a little bit more. Let me know how you like it, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. And don't forget to like us, subscribe, and basically share around. Go to the Facebook, go to Patreon. Follow me on Patreon if you're not ready to give money. We're developing a... I initially called it a grimoire, an online grimoire, like a personal grimoire, but I'm trying to find a new name for it. Essentially, where you can digitize all of your grimoire information, so all your ritual activities and everything can be digital and automated to a degree where you're not having to pull astrological data. It'll automatically pull that data based on your settings. It'll automatically pull moon phases and time of days and weather conditions, and you just got to pull in your notes, and you got to pull in, you know, your sigils and kind of what happened, and then it allows you to track and do correspondences and everything as well. But more on that later. But so follow us, because we got some stuff coming that you guys will like. Thank you all very much.